I'm sure everybody remembers the somewhat annoying song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. It was at least a decade ago when it was frequently on the radio, and it was that kind of song that once it got into your head, you couldn't get it out, and I'm sure after even just hearing about it now, it'll be in your head. And it was one of those songs that talked about how we should just not worry and be happy, and it had all sorts of examples. This week's Torah portion, Beha'alotecha, in many ways is the exact opposite, because it shows the Israelites complaining and bickering and never happy, as if they walked around always with a big frown on their faces, could never recognize that life maybe was more difficult having left Egypt, but it was better. They were their own people. They could make their own choices. They complained bitterly to Moses over and over again that life in Egypt was so great that they had all the food they could ever want and things were taken care of for them. And here out in the wilderness, in the desert, in the book of Numbers, things were terrible. They didn't have enough food to eat. And so God, in a moment of anger, probably thinking to God's self, will these people ever be happy? Starts to throw all sorts of things to them. Quail starts to fly from the sea, more than they could ever eat, and they fill their mouths with it to the point of exhaustion and to the point where many of them die because God says enough is enough. And so perhaps the song Don't Worry, Be Happy, a little trite, a little annoying, perhaps that's the way that the Israelites should have looked at the world. That they didn't have everything that they needed. None of us do. That life wasn't perfect. It never is. But perhaps the things that ought to matter were taken care of. Life was better. They could have just been happy.